Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
No pressure. Alright. This first one, I will set the scene. It's a normal day. As normal as they get by now, anyway. Early morning, Monday. Said goodbye to Mum. She's got to get on her way. Work to be done. College awaits me and my 10,000 word essay, which was definitely due last Thursday, but I scribbled the rest last night watching Pineapple Express on Blu-ray with the words, "Potential is nothing without persistence," in my teacher's voice on replay. T, social media. An encyclopedia of selfies filtered in sepia, a blatantly subtle Facebook post skirting around her recent heartbreak from Amelia. Before I feel the urge to slide into her DMs and check it's not too severe, I should probably get off of here. So I flick over to ASOS. They've got a sale on and maybe the jacket I saw is lowered in cost. Out of stock, but I find a top with the word fail printed across. Feels appropriate, add to basket, along with those knee-high socks, which I am never going to wear, let's face it, but they're the ones Becky's got, and with that mini skirt, she makes them look hot. Realising an empty bank account can buy none of this, I close the browser and find the willpower I'd dismissed. Finally, I get to the shower. I'll be ready to leave within an hour. I emerge, resist the urge to check Facebook again, hair's dripping where it was longer back then. Takes 2 minutes to dry these days, back then an easy 10. So hairdryer, full heat, full power. I'm living out my shell before reverting back to Wallflower, singing a cappella, murdering Rihanna's umbrella. But in my head, my performance is stellar. When the sun shines, we shine together, hair flick, freeze. Scream. Silhouette darkens doorway, he's come to take me. How did he get in? How do I get out? He's blocking the only exit and no one's gonna hear me shout. In my head, I'm running, in reality, hostage. Next move consequential, hairdryer mutates, gun to temple. Flashbacks assemble, legs begin to tremble, fall to knees, beg him, second scream. Accidental. It's my brother. Come to say goodbye. I thought he'd left, now his distress, so am I. I'm a mess, he holds me, we both cry. Tears burst, cartoon-like from my eyes. I sob for the future that's gone awry. I'm a live wire, I say. I'm quite the electrician, he replies. I'm used to a shock. But one moment backtracking feels like scissors cut the rope and I don't know when the fall will stop. He says, who worries about scissors when you've got me? Scissors can't beat rock. He strums my vein. The one I've picked to the chorus of Jar of Hearts, replaying again and again. Vocal cords shredded from my inharmonic release of pain. Heartbeat amplified by the cranked up strain. Finger taps to stay present, techniques to entertain my distorted brain from giving too much feedback that only leaves me drained. Are you going to be okay? I feel like I should ask him the same. He leaves. I take 5 more minutes to grieve, return to my feet, legs still jelly, breathe. Talk myself out of finishing my hair without having to speak. I'll arrive at college hair wet for the following week. Isn't it funny how one trauma continues to traumatise, but not in a funny way? Potential is nothing without persistence. But not today. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you. The problem with having really long poems is that your mouth gets really dry and you have no choice with taking a sip of water halfway through. So this next poem, I'd heard other poets do poems to their younger selves, like letters to their younger self poems, and always watched them with a massive amount of anxiety because I've watched too many films where people go back in time and change something and it fucks shit up worse when they get back to the future than it was already fucked up in the first place, and then they have to go back again and change it again. So I always watch them really scared that they're going to ruin their lives even though it's not actually possible to go back in time. But I've written one myself now, so this is my letter to my 16, 17-year-old self. Dear Jem, I won't ask how you're doing. I've been there. I know. I'm writing to reassure you that your story is worth pursuing despite his abysmal cameo. Saving yourself for the one was important to do. Thoughts of living in the wrong order intimidated you. Marriage, inevitable. Sex outside of it, not an avenue you'd dare take. Anything reinforced to us as children we ingurgitate like it's cake, and now you're left to retch on this slice of tart, too gut-wrenching to swallow, too unyielding to digest because it doesn't reach the expectations you strove to follow. You craved his attention, but not that kind. The anaesthesia of manipulation numbing your mind. Lights were on and someone home, but dimmed, so the control was hard to find. An exit with a code to crack left you confined. When reality becomes something you only ever encountered in fiction, how do you cope? It's like hitting black ice knowing you can't stop the slide with nothing to hold on to but hope, and things like this don't happen to people like you, so this can't be your slippery slope, except they do. And it did. So let's try and navigate this crossroad. The naivety being weakness even though you were a child, the questioning his affection because afterwards he smiled. You're not going to hell. You're going through it right now. Yes, you said no, and no, you didn't ask for it before you opened your mouth. No should have been enough first time, let alone second or third, and regardless of no, your silence should have been heard. It was not your fault that silence he preferred, and when you tried to relax so that the pain would be deterred, that was not you trusting his every word, that was brave. It did not mean you caved because you wanted to get out unscathed, and if he's done the same to someone else, you aren't responsible for how he behaves, just because you try to love someone who needs more than what love can do. Just because you saw him as human despite his inhumane view, don't condemn yourself for being gullible when he spoke fluent blackmail like truth. You'd say, don't mistake my kindness for weakness, knowing full well it was no mistake. But kindness is never an invitation to abuse what you can take, to constrict until they break, to coerce into a bed they didn't make. Don't let the scent of humiliation keep you awake. Rip off the sheets, burn the pillows, those can be replaced. Use a nightlight to prevent harmless objects shifting in their shape. Captivity is familiar. Making decisions, a treat. Don't stand at the window wondering. Go and stand barefoot in the grass and feel freedom at your feet. Thinking for yourself when you've been conditioned to believe you're always wrong is no mean feat, but you don't need to know where you're going to sit in the driver's seat. Like a poet on stage reminiscing their battle when it's clear they're still wielding their sword and shield. You're wearing an armour pretending it's nothing you can't handle, but petrified your fate is sealed. Forgiveness is a minefield, and you can't reclaim what he stole, but that doesn't mean what's left is dishonourable. Or that you need to repent and cleanse your soul, or that abuse can be excused if it's tolerable, or that your life needs to acquire quality control because your watercolour painting has been smothered in charcoal. I believe you. And I am the only opinion that counts. You won't just get over it like ignorance will announce, so don't entertain it with yeah, I know, and a deep burial of doubt. You may feel worthless, but that doesn't mean your love can now be bought at a discount. You'll confide in the wrong people, but it won't cause damage. Turns out speaking in public will help you manage. The air may be as thick as him right now, but you'll continue breathing despite the challenge, and if sex is ever a term and condition again, Gem, honey, you don't want the package. Custard creams no longer mean you hear his voice. You prefer a bourbon, but it's nice to know you have the choice. One day you'll befriend someone who shares his name, and you'll know that that's the only thing that they share the same. Don't wither, trying to be a delicate flower waiting to bloom. Future you is a cactus, so be prickly if you need some room. Take the faith you used to put in others and bathe in it until it seeps through your pores. Let it wash away his fingerprints and then watch as it opens doors. You can't force clouds to disperse, but the sun is there even when you can't see it. It will stay strong until it breaks through and will ensure your darkest nights are moonlit. Fear comes before bravery. You have a future, and it's here with me, and at last he is an afterthought. That is, after you. That is how it should be. And you see, a leopard can't change its spots, but its appearance does vary depending on climate. So don't surrender to your current conditions or overanalyze your predisposition. Change is constant. Oh, and let them comfort you before comfort agitates. Sealed with a loving handshake. Jemima. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Right, this is going to be my last poem because I do dribble on, don't I? They're really long. This poem is very special to me. And he's going to hate me for saying it, but it's because the person who's with me today, it's written about, and he's never been in the room when I've performed it before, so let's hope I don't fuck up. But the poem speaks for itself, so it doesn't really need an introduction, but before I do it, thank you for listening to me today. It's so, so powerful to feel like your voice is heard when you speak, so keep listening to each other, because it's changing lives. And thank you, Clive and Nick, for the opportunity, again, because you guys have been brilliant for me, to me. Everything is crazy, and a lot of it is because I got to perform here like 6 months ago doing my first headliner, so they gave me a bit of a starting point that I just didn't expect, so thank you for that. So if you can, try and be someone's friend in the green t-shirt. This is a love poem, not in the way you may think, the way many already do, or the way I once did, but it is a love poem. This is love at its most sublime. This is love if it fell in love. This is love being able to tell the time. He caught me off guard like those toilets with a sensor flush. You sit back too far and it turns into a bidet mid-push. He looked at me like there are pages in between, not just a cover. He intimidated me. In a motivational way, made me want to write more so there is more to discover. He made me feel inadequate. It was unintentional, but he did, because there is nothing common about his sense. His mind is unconventional. His words, gold dust. Words I treasure knowing they exude quality. They cover my days but don't weigh me down. A layer of protection when I can't tame my curiosity. It's dangerous. Being close to someone when you are prone to obsessive behaviours, when you meet someone and immediately believe that they are your saviour, and I know at time my passion outweighed his, which hurt, but the reality is it's done me countless favours. He looked at me like an abstract painting, reading into me, not troubled that figuring me out involved watching and waiting. He fitted a window and a door in the wall I'd made, handed me the key without expectation. This was no trade. Light seeped through the window where we spoke of personal crusades until I was ready to concede and remove the barricade. When others stepped back, as though they could catch my condition, he stepped up, looking at me as though catching me had been his lifelong ambition, and he did. He caught me with strength which far outweighed his stature. He taught me, we ride waves on surfboards, not rubber dinghies. That is much harder to master. You create unnecessary work if you don't equip yourself with the tools to make sure you're looked after. And when our friendship narrowed to a one-way street, he didn't break. He travelled down it faster. He said, I like to look at your life as a piece of work-in-progress origami. It looks like shit right now, but one day, beautiful is what it's going to be. A joke. But I agreed. He tells me to lean on him, asks me what I need after speaking, thanks me for sharing as though what I've said is an out of self-indulgent greed, and when I speak to him, my words project back at me in his eyes. He's trying to see what I see, so that he can empathise. He spoke to me like me when I was impossible to recognise, advised me not to hide in the darkness, reasoning fear can't find me under its disguise. He speaks to me, about me, for me, not to tell the other guys, never says relax or calm down. He knows it's not rational to feel those things all of the time. And when it first happened with him, and my emotions shifted into overdrive, he held me while I cried and said, I wore a green t-shirt so you can snot on it all you like. Anytime since when an episode does arise, he takes a moment to change his shirt so any brain matter doesn't have to be compromised. And when I panic, he asks, "Shall we do some breathing?" Because it's not as simple as something I've been doing my whole life. He gives me butterflies, not ones that are about to take flight, ones that aren't afraid to fight to survive. "You owe me one," he'll jest when he lends me art supplies, but don't mention it. In return for a night of restraining me from knives, you go, I go. Should never be a settlement to keep someone alive, but the thought of him going is not one I can bear in mind. The way he spoke of his friends when we first met was like each put a star in the night sky or were the reason for every sunset. I remember wanting him to speak of me the same way, vowing to become someone he would never forget at my lowest. I put him up so high it was hard to look at him without an ache in my neck. He was my morphine. I was mindful not to overprescribe to avoid an addiction that would only add to the battle to survive. At his weakest, he said, "I'm all in." He was bluffing. This was not a hand he had strength in, but I couldn't tell he had nothing, so he won the hand. Then took mine, held it next to his, and proved they are stronger together. Assuring me a tear will never fall alone again because his and mine are tethered. He slept with lights on for me, sacrificed his sleep so I could, and when I looked at him in horror because my mind told me he was a monster, he didn't flinch. He pretended he understood. Despite the tension, sleep deprivation and nocturnal activity, he maintained that I must be a genius with a sleep pattern to mirror the likes of Emily Bronte or Da Vinci. And when I lose who I am with silence, he soothes me, then plays the songs in my heart to recall my identity. He confirmed I can survive on my own, although blissfully unaware, because just when I thought his presence was set in stone, he had to go. And I surfed a wave bigger than in the past I would have dared. It was then I knew my life wouldn't be the same without me. That others are an honour. But I am the one I need. He taught me these lessons without ever having to preach. There must be something more is the general consensus, but I fall for a human, not someone's gender. If that's the rules, my love life with friends would rival something from EastEnders. You can feel this way without concealing a hidden agenda, and I am in love with him, in this unconditional friendship and acceptance of growth. Lack of bitterness amid success, lack of judgment throughout woe. I like honesty and attention, but mainly honesty. I can do it without him, but with him, to a whole new degree. For the foreseeable future, I'll line my wardrobe with t-shirts that are green. And if anyone needs a friend like him, I'll try to be their true sense of security. And finally, he said to me, "You should hear what I say about you." And I knew I'd become that friend he talks about like they are the most breathtaking view. Here's the last time I'll introduce myself with, "Hi, I'm Jemima." I was abused. He's not my knight in shining armour, rather my antidepressant in liquid form so it's easier to consume. One day he's going to meet someone who no stars or sunsets can outdo, and when he does, I'm going to fall in love with them too. For showing him he is his everything, and that his flaws are the piece of his art that hold the most value. These days we hold each other's hearts in our hands when they are heavy, then hold each other's hands for support. He's been my composure during my storm, and if my storm doesn't cease, I just hope to be flashes of light on his days where the clouds show no remorse. When my roots were digging down, finding their way, he was the whisper through the neighbouring trees, reassuring me I would be my own source of energy one day. Now I take a gold-dusted leaf out of his book and keep it on display, a reminder. Words have the power to give a cliffhanger, less falling space. If a trick of the mind can aid navigation rather than cause delay, I want to be a magician. And if you are someone's friend in the green t-shirt, my God, you are giving unconditional its definition. Thank you so much.
Aww.